Greetings gamers, I'm Shootkabow and I'm back with yet another Pikmin 4 ranking video. This time around we're going to be talking about the toughest enemies you'll face in the game, excluding the puffy blowhog because the tier list that I used excluded it, and for good reason. Today, we're ranking 18 bosses from worst to best, and if I missed any, comment down below which ones they are and your thoughts on them. Also, this list is of course subjective and based mostly on my preferences. Starting us off is the very first boss you'll encounter holding Olmar's interstellar radio. The Pourquillon? Something? French, is an interesting boss at first glance, but it ends up being kinda dull later on in the game. Being one of the few enemies the rock Pikmin have merit against is great, but the enemy is just too easy. Its attacks aren't hard to dodge, and a good charge from Ochi deals huge damage with a Pikmin. It's kinda just a glorified normal enemy, and that lands in a D tier for me. Coming up at number 17 in opening C tier is another new boss, this one being the Crusted Rumpup. This one is at least more dynamic to fight, and its design as a scorpion-like beast is pretty fun. Having to throw Pikmin on its tail to expose its weak point is a fun mechanic, and I love how it foreshadows the final boss's mechanic, but the main issue with it is the lack of usage. The Pourquillon and Rumpup feel so underutilized, much like other enemies in this game, and that's most of the reason they're so low. Our number 16 spot goes to the Gildamander, a fun-looking new enemy that's pretty annoying to fight. To beat it, you have to knock the gold nuggets off its back to destroy them to expose its weak points where you can damage it. The nuggets are tough to break, and the Gildamander will often head right for them to lick it up, along with any Pikmin attacking them. The best way I found to beat it is to sit in front of it and dodge its attacks as you bait them, giving your Pikmin enough time to break the nuggets. And at that point, the fight is kinda just slow and monotonous. It has potential, but it's not for me. At number 15, we have the laughingstock of Pikmin 2, that being the Emperor Bulblax. And guess what? In this game, it dies just as fast to purples. To be fair, you get them much later than when this boss first appears, so it's at least a threat for a little while. In Kingdom of Beasts, there are two of them on the final floor, which is actually great for making them more threatening. They're still a far cry from their larger counterparts, but they're not the worst. Finishing off C tier is a new spin on a classic enemy. The Arctic Cannon Beetle first appears at the bottom of Sub-Zero's sauna, and it's a fun fight. Its main issue is not being very challenging, and it's also super underutilized, with its only other appearance being in Cavern for a King. But if there's DLC including a snowy area, this boss would likely see more usage. From one snowy enemy to another, the Snowflake Fluttertail is another fun but underutilized enemy. It's more threatening, being able to waste your time if nothing else, and having to use the fire starters to fight it is super interesting. If I recall correctly, I think it can only freeze your Pikmin rather than killing them, but the boss itself still has a fun design, and I think it lands at the bottom of B tier. Our number 12 spot goes to the boss they called the Garden of Hope home in Pikmin 3. The Bug-Eyed Crawmad is a fun boss, while not exactly the most difficult to fight. Having to take out its eyes before you can damage it is a fun mechanic, and it always feels satisfying to defeat. It's not underutilized by any means either, having just the right amount of appearances for my liking. I don't really have a lot more to say on it, but it's a decently average boss. Coming in at number 11 is a new classic, that being the Baldy Longlegs from Pikmin 3. Not to be confused with its exact carbon copy predecessor to Beady Longlegs, this enemy has essentially replaced the former. It's a fun enemy, and you all know how it works by now. It's utilized a fair amount, but a little bland in this game, and I can't really explain why. The lack of the shaggy longlegs could be a contributor. If you've spotted either of these subjects, please report their last seen locations in the comments below, for it may be the only way to stop the Baldy Longlegs' reign of terror. At the top of B, our number 10 spot goes to the Foolix. This golden enemy is a great variation on the Pikmin 1 Easter egg, and I just wish it had been used more. It's not exactly tough, but it's a unique concept and a fun fight, once again using the Rumpup's tail mechanic. Though this time it's to drag its core out of protective nectar? I'm not exactly sure what this stuff is. But either way, it's a fun, unique boss to finish off the B tier. And now, where else to put our number 9 boss, the Horned Cannon Beetle, than in A tier? While it's not used much, it's still just as fun as in Pikmin 1, and even more threatening due to the sheer size of the boulders it shoots. Look at these things, they're huge! The boss also takes more cycles to kill Pikmin due to Pikmin 4's artificial damage limitation, which is lame but helps this boss a bit. Overall, a great boss that I couldn't put any lower. The giant bread bug comes in above it, though, and for good reason. This enemy's been a long-time fan favorite. It's such a silly, goofy boss, and its bready aesthetic doesn't hurt. The personification of it helps in this game too, making it get irritated when its spoils are brought back to the Beagle. The fact that you can just pile Pikmin on its back to take it out is annoying and hurts it, but it's still a huge meme along with its smaller counterpart in the community, and I can't put it any lower than A for that. Speaking of fan favorites, the classic Burrowing Snagger is next, and this boss would be much higher in this game if it wasn't just so underutilized. There's 1 in Blossom Arcadia and 2 in Cavern for a King, and that's essentially it barring side modes and Dare Dory. It's still a great boss, and it's remarkable that its design has held up for all this time, but the fact that there are less of these in the wild than there are of the endangered mountain gorilla hurts its ranking. At number 6, we have the enemy that probably led to the Snagger's endangered status, along with many of the other enemies on this list, that being the terrifying Water Wraith.
I just had to open my mouth!
This enemy has been a classic since Pikmin 2, its appearance in the submerged castle striking fear into the hearts of many players, and for good reason. This thing was terrifying back in 2, being able to crush your Pikmin effortlessly. In this game, while it has more appearances, Ochi makes it much easier to deal with, as you can squeeze past it without casualties now. It's still a terrifying encounter, especially in the Cavern for a King where 2 spawn at a time. This also has potential implications for the Umibozo theory, but that's not really my field. For this list though, it makes it into the A tier. Our top 5 kicks off with an absolute monster. Coming into this game just as strong as it was at the end of Pikmin 1, the Sovereign Bullwax is a terrifying opponent. With its huge attacks, roar that can stun you by knocking you off Ochi, and huge jumps that only rocks are immune to, it's a really strong boss, which makes sense considering that's the only returning final boss. It's a great boss to finish off the top 5, but I just feel like it's a little easy once you figure out to just rush the side of its face with Ochi. Starting off the S tier, the Man at Legs is one of the most unique bosses in the series, if not the top 1. A mechanical cyborg spider with an actual gun is absolutely insane, and this enemy instantly became a fan favorite back in Pikmin 2. Back then, it was of course more scary due to not having Ochi, but you still have to constantly be running from his shots in this game, and it's even more exhilarating this way than just sitting behind a wall. I greatly underranked this boss in my older videos, and I can now recognize just how amazingly designed this thing is. From one spider to another, the groovy Longlegs takes the cake at number 3. It's a great replacement for the raging Longlegs, actually being threatening with the dancing status, and its design and music are both top notch. It doesn't quite unseat our top 2, but it's great all the same. I especially love how it changes states, indicated by the lights on its head changing colors. It's one of the best arachnoids in the series, and I love it. Our top 2 goes to the Ancient Sirehound, aka the literal dog at the end of the game. This thing was so funny the first time I saw it, and it's still pretty absurd. It's an amazing boss though, using its elemental transformations in great ways, and they all feel natural. The final phase where it flies and insta-kills your Pikmin is brutally tough, but still enjoyable despite its difficulty. It's one of the best final bosses in the series, which isn't really saying anything because the Titan Weevil and Plasma Wraith are still very close to it. It might just be new toy syndrome, but I prefer the Sirehound at the moment. Either way, definitely a top 2 boss at least. Right now though, nothing quite surpasses this Monkey Prog in my eyes. Its updated design and combat is great, and it's a boss that's tough but not unfairly so, like in Pikmin 1. It's utilized mostly in the night missions, but also shows up in Cavern for a King to give you a tough fight. Its new projectile attack is great and requires you to either play around it for a few seconds or to hop over with Ochi. Its roar is also a deadly combo with its insta-death gas, requiring you to not rely on the dog too much. Overall, it's a great boss that's utilized very well and secures its top 1 spawn in this list. That was fun. Bosses are always an interesting topic when talking about the series, and it's always enjoyable to discuss which ones are tough and which ones aren't. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe to see future Pikmin content as well. I'll be uploading a cave ranking and full series type ranking soon, so make sure to stay tuned. Comment on the other video ideas down below and join my Discord if you want. Thank you to my one current patron Zanku for supporting me, which you can do too by following the link in the description, and also consider donating or commissioning on Ko-fi. With that, the video is just about over, so until next time, this is Shukabao, over and out.